Queen Alisi and the Whale, a tale from the Crescent Atoll. Back in the early days of the islands, one in particular was ruled by a great queen known as Alisi. Alisi was known well throughout the land for her fairness and generosity towards her people. But the reason her name is now passed down from family to family is because of the pet Tinirau she had tamed and become close friends with. Queen Alisi's Tinirau was in the shape of a great whale, but had been blessed with strong arms instead of the normal fins that whales have. These great limbs allowed Alisi's Tinirau to catch many fish for her and helped her and her people to build great palaces by the sea. Alisi would often ride atop her Tinirau when she travelled from island to island, and people marvelled from miles around at the sight of this proud woman and the strong friendship she had forged with such a creature. One of Queen Alisi's neighbours, Isaleli, chief of the Fat Island, was very jealous of this magical creature, and he wanted it for himself. Once, after visiting Queen Alisi's island, Chief Isaleli demanded that he travel home atop of the whale. He refused to get into his canoe. Queen Alisi felt uneasy at the man's demands, as he had not been the most gracious guest during his visit. However, she also knew that the rudeness of her guest did not excuse her from being a good host, and she knew she could not refuse the man's request. "You may ride her," she instructed the chief, "but mind that you are kind to her. She shall bring you to the beach of your island, and she will shake herself to tell you it is time for you to dismount. You must do so immediately, and then she will return to me." Chief Isaleli thanked Queen Alisi for her hospitality and wore a great grin on his face as he mounted the Tinirau and set forth for home. The Tinirau took Chief Isaleli straight to his island and used her great arms to pull herself onto his beach. With half her body still in the sea, Alisi's whale shook herself to tell Chief Isaleli to dismount. Chief Isaleli had enjoyed his journey on top of the whale greatly, and now that it had come to an end, he did not wish to give her up. "Bring me further on to the beach," he urged the giant creature. "I am wearing my fine clothes and do not wish to get them wet." Alisi's Tinirau felt uneasy at this request, but did as she was instructed, as her master had commanded her to look after the visiting chief. Using her great arms, she dug deep into the sand and pulled herself forward until only her great tail remained in the water. Once this far forward, she again shook herself to tell Chief Isaleli to dismount. "I wish to slide down your back to dismount at your tail, but if I do so now, I shall find myself in the sea, and my fine clothes will be ruined. Pull yourself further ashore, so I may leave you safely." The Tinirau felt more uneasy about this request, and refused to do so, instead shaking herself again to let Chief Isaleli know it was time for him to leave. The greedy chief sneered and shouted to his people who were hiding in the trees beyond the beach, "Bring ropes and bind this whale. I would have her as my own." Alisi's Tinirau struggled against her attackers, but was now too far inland to move herself towards the water. She was able to use her great arms to crush many of Chief Isaleli's men, but unfortunately their number was too great, and soon many ropes had been thrown over her body, binding her to the earth. Alisi's Tinirau struggled and rolled, and her blowhole filled with sand as the great creature panicked at her capture. The Queen's whale choked on the sand and died on the beach. Chief Isaleli was most disappointed at this. He had wanted a live Tinirau as a pet. However, wanting to make the best of a bad situation, he gathered his people together. "Let us have a feast," he said to them all, "to celebrate the death of this great monster." The chief's people dug great ovens into the beaches along his island, and inside them they roasted Queen Alisi's whale. They feasted well into the night, and danced, drank, and sang, congratulating themselves on fighting such a great battle. The next morning, the smell from Chief Isaleli's ovens drifted over the seas, and Queen Alisi was awoken by the scent of whale flesh on the breeze. She instantly felt sick to her stomach, fearing the worst. She sent some spies to Chief Isilili's island, and they confirmed her fears. The chief had killed her taniwha, and his people had feasted on it. Queen Alisi's rage was furious. She gathered all the warriors she had on the island, numbering about 40, and prepared to set sail to seek revenge. Before she did so, a group of women stepped forth. Queen Alisi, they begged, please do not do this. We are a peaceful people with few warriors among us. Chief Isilili, however, has an entire army. When he sees our war canoes coming, he will summon all his men and destroy our husbands. Instead, let us, the women of the island, carry out the revenge you seek. Many of the gathered warriors began to laugh at this suggestion, but Queen Alisi waved for silence, wishing to hear the plan. Chief Isilili will not expect any trouble from us, the women explained. He will think we are merely visiting the island to see the great warriors who worked together to kill a taniwha. This will allow us to work our magic on the army and on the chief. When we have made them fall into a deep sleep, we can steal Chief Isilili away to be punished. The warriors were uneasy about letting their wives travel alone to Chief Isilili's island, and they were most unhappy about letting them use their magic with other men. But the queen saw it as a good plan. She disguised herself as a washerwoman and joined the women on their canoe to Chief Isilili's island. When they arrived on the island, the canoe of women was welcomed with open arms. Chief Isilili's armies were still celebrating their victory over the taniwha. Queen Alisi's women danced with and entertained the warriors, using their magic to make them all fall into a deep sleep. Queen Alisi herself entertained Chief Isilili, who did not recognise her through her disguise. Her magic was so strong, but her heart sank as she realised that even after entertaining him for most of the night in his private chambers, the chief's eyes remained open. Soon it would be daylight, and the warriors would wake from their magical sleep. The moment for revenge had almost passed. Then the queen's eyes narrowed. She danced closer to the chief. She gave a smile of deep satisfaction when she realised she was not looking at the chief's open eyes, but at a pair of brightly coloured seashells that rested upon his eyelids. The chief had noticed many of his warriors falling into a deep sleep, and had placed the shells on his eyes to fool any enemy that might be attempting something. The queen quickly dressed and summoned the other women. They stole away in the night, bringing the sleeping chief with them. It was a long time before the chief was released from the clutches of Queen Alisi, and by then he had been punished many times over for the death of the whale, and was a changed man for the rest of his life.